Welcome to the American War. Have you ever wondered how major decisions, brilliant strategies, and pivotal moments shaped not only the American Civil War but also the world we live in today? In this video, you'll dive into a fascinating analysis of the most significant campaigns, the political tensions that erupted into riots, and the real-world impacts of the Emancipation Proclamation. It's more than just history. It's a guide to understanding how leadership and resilience transform crises into change. Imagine understanding what made ordinary men become heroes, and how lessons from military strategy can be applied to everyday challenges. Do you want to know the secrets behind the victories and defeats that still resonate today? Then stick around, because what you're about to learn could change the way you look at history and leadership. This isn't just another video about the American Civil War. It's an engaging conversation designed to answer your questions and spark new insights. Ready to discover the moments that changed everything? Let's get started. The Emancipation Proclamation, signed by Abraham Lincoln in 1863, was a landmark event in the American Civil War, but its initial effects were limited. While it's remembered as a gesture of freedom, its application was restricted to the Confederate states in rebellion. That is, regions under Union control or border states like Kentucky and Missouri were not affected. This sparked heated debates about the effectiveness of this measure and opened the door for war strategies focused on morale and politics. Even with restrictions, the proclamation had a powerful moral impact. For African Americans, it symbolized a new era of struggle and hope. In addition, it formally authorized the enlistment of black men in the Union forces, a decision that would change the course of the American War. Imagine the transformation. Men who were once enslaved, now wielding weapons in pursuit of freedom and justice. In all, about 200,000 black soldiers fought, transforming the battlefield into a space for claiming dignity. This authorization, however, was not received without resistance. The Confederacy saw the integration of African Americans as a direct threat to its social and military order. Without the presence of Union troops to enforce the proclamation, the Confederate territories refused to implement liberation. This scenario demanded a strategic military approach, highlighting how the American War was not just about armies, but also about ideologies. Real-world examples of this resistance include Confederate retaliation against communities that supported the Union. But as any strategist knows, time and perseverance are allies. As Union advances began to intensify, slaves fled to enemy lines in search of freedom, putting more pressure on the Confederates. Here, the dynamics of the American Civil War went far beyond armed battles. It was a psychological and social struggle. This set the stage for even deeper discussions about the role of military and political leadership in conducting the war. After all, how do you turn a moral idea into a practical tool of war? This question leads us directly to the next historical milestone, the major campaigns of 1863. The year 1863 marked a strategic turning point in the American Civil War, with campaigns that shaped the course of the conflict. Among them, the Vicksburg campaign, led by General Ulysses S. Grant, stands out. Controlling the Mississippi River was vital, and Grant, known for his tenacity, dedicated months to sieges and intense battles. When Vicksburg fell on July 4th, the Union gained absolute control of the river, dividing the Confederacy in two. This victory was a crucial strategic blow, drastically reducing Confederate mobility and resources. In parallel, the Battle of Chancellorsville brought a significant victory for the Confederates, led by General Robert E. Lee. However, this glory came at a bitter price: the loss of General Stonewall Jackson, a victim of friendly fire. Jackson was more than a commander. He was the heart of the Confederate strategy. His death shook the morale of the Southern Army, highlighting how even victories can have irreparable costs. Here we see how the American War was unpredictable and full of nuances. The Battle of Gettysburg, fought in July 1863, was a watershed moment. Robert E. Lee tried to take the war to the north, but his plans failed, resulting in more than 50,000 casualties in 3 days. This brutal confrontation not only depleted Confederate resources, but also marked the beginning of the South's decline. It's interesting to consider how individual decisions, such as Pickett's famous charge, sealed the fate of the battle and, to a large extent, the war. These campaigns also highlight the importance of logistics and leadership in military success. While Grant carefully planned his offensives, Lee faced increasing challenges in keeping his troops equipped and motivated. For aspiring strategists, these lessons still resonate. Whether in historical battles or modern challenges, the ability to predict consequences and manage resources is a universal skill. The impact of these battles reverberated both on the battlefield and in politics. The Union was gaining strength, but the human and moral cost of the conflict continued to grow, setting the stage for the political and social tensions that would deepen throughout the year. While battles ravaged the countryside, the streets of American cities were also the scene of conflict. The New York City draft riots, motivated by conscription, revealed deep economic and social inequalities. Workers, mainly Irish immigrants, revolted against the idea of fighting for a cause that, for them, seemed distant from their realities. These protests showed how the American war was not limited to the battlefield. It was also a war of classes, beliefs, and priorities. The Union's response to these challenges was marked by decisive actions. The government, led by Abraham Lincoln, tightened measures to ensure internal order. With strict orders, such as the suppression of insurgencies and the protection of black soldiers, the Union tried not only to maintain control but also to convey a message of unity. However, these measures were not always well received, creating a cycle of resistance and repression that increased social tension. These conflicts also exposed the structural racism of American society. Black soldiers often faced summary executions by Confederate troops, an act that the Union began to punish vehemently. The stories of these soldiers are emblematic, men who faced not only enemy bullets but also prejudice within their own ranks. The courage of these combatants was a reminder that the American Civil War was a fight for something greater than territories. Practical examples of resilience emerged in these difficult times. One of the notable actions was the mobilization of black communities to support Union soldiers, whether by manufacturing supplies or organizing escape networks for slaves. This civic engagement is a powerful example of how individual and collective actions can influence major changes even in times of adversity. These political and social tensions continued to escalate, with impacts not only immediate, but also lasting. With a weakened Confederacy and a Union struggling to remain cohesive, the stage was set for significant changes. But how would this affect the morale and economy of the Confederacy? As the American War progressed, the wear and tear on the Confederacy became evident. The Southern economy, heavily dependent on agriculture and enslaved labor, was on the verge of collapse. With Union naval blockades cutting off essential supplies and local production unable to meet needs, despair began to dominate Confederate cities and villages. Famine and lack of resources not only weakened the army, but also eroded the spirit of civilians. The Union victories at Chattanooga and Knoxville in late 1863 marked decisive moments in this decline. Led by generals like Ulysses S. Grant and William T. Sherman, the Union armies broke fundamental defensive lines, expanding their control over Confederate territory. These defeats further weakened the Southern forces, reducing their ability to reorganize troops and defend strategic positions. For the Confederates, each defeat seemed to bring them one step closer to the end. Meanwhile, Abraham Lincoln adopted a diplomatic approach to further weaken Confederate resistance. By offering amnesty to those who swore allegiance to the United States, he sought not only to destabilize the leadership of the South, but also to pave the way for the reconstruction of the country. This strategy, although controversial, proved effective in gaining the trust of many former Confederates and weakening the political bases of the rebellion. The declining morale among Confederate soldiers was also palpable. With precarious conditions on the battlefields and constant news of defeats, desertions became common. Imagine yourself in the shoes of a young Southern soldier, fighting for an increasingly lost cause, while his family at home faced extreme hardship. This scenario illustrates how the American war was fought on multiple fronts: military, social, and psychological. With the Confederacy in free fall, the Union prepared to exploit its growing advantage. The impact of this weakness was felt not only in the South but throughout the country, as the North advanced with greater confidence. But what would come after the war? That's a debate for another day. And now the question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Can the strategies and decisions that shaped the American Civil War inspire the way you face challenges today? Think about how understanding the past can help you better plan for the future. After all, American wars are not just stories of battles, but of overcoming leadership and profound changes. What moment in history caught your attention the most? How about sharing your opinion in the comments? We want to know, how would you apply these lessons in today's world? Leave your answer, because your vision matters and can further enrich our community. If you want to continue learning about American wars and discover the secrets behind each strategic decision, subscribe to the channel now and turn on the bell. This way, you won't miss any of the next videos and you'll always be up to date on the stories that change the world. Let's go on this journey through history together.